that what we will have is continued pressure on the working group and financial markets, and the other name for that's the plunge protection team. And I think they're going to continue to lose power. Their abilities are going to wane, and not only in the stock market but also in other markets as well. And as this unfolds, I think that the stock market will go lower, the dollar will go lower against other currencies, and all currencies will go lower against gold, and gold will finally, over the next year, break loose and get on its own and go to the level where it reasonably should be.
By the way, Bob, a lot of other big
historical basis. Say that again.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. A lot of mainline analysts are saying what you're saying. They're saying that big financial institutions, by cutting off liquidity, by killing the markets, are using this as a time to consolidate this contraction in Main Street and the industrial base, the real economy, but that as soon as that is over, as bad as all the closings and shutdowns and layoffs are, the worst is yet to come in the next year, leading into 2012, into 3 years, as the hyperinflation compounds on top of the depression we see in the real economy. And so would you say that that is the unknown economic land that we've never entered of hyper-stagflation?
Yes, it's going to be worse than the 1930s for a number of reasons. It's like a spinning top, and the top goes faster and faster, and all of a sudden it flips out and goes into orbit, and you don't see it anymore because the system collapses. And that's what we're faced with. Yes, we had abuse of credit during the 1920s, but nothing like you see today. I mean, there were no credit cards, just as an example. And we had relative law and order in those days. There were not large amounts of criminals like the millions of people who are incarcerated in America today. And so the underlying, and we were a creditor nation. People owed us money, and we had backing on our currency of gold, which we don't have today. So all of these factors and many others, you put them together, and as they say in England, it looks like a dog's breakfast from here to 2012. And I agree, things are going to get nasty. I keep on telling people over and over again, get out of debt, the credit card debt, the revolving debt, get the things in you need, the food, the filter, the weapons. You're going to need them.
Bob, what about
have them there?
What about this G20 meeting in D.C. this weekend, openly announcing Baron Rothschild was in the UAE national paper saying we're setting up world government. This is the new world order. Meanwhile, Rush Limbaugh says the Rothschilds don't exist. That's a quote to his idiot, fake conservative audience that's been lulled to sleep. We're the real conservatives, by the way, if you didn't know that, if you're a Rush Limbaugh minion. I mean, this is going to be a rude awakening for them who keep living in denial, but that's part two. What do you see coming up this weekend?
Well, we've really touched on the two main points. There'll be a number of things put forward on transparency, which is just a subterfuge, and they'll talk about global warming, and they talk about China spending $460 billion on infrastructure, and the Chinese just spent a lot of time over the last year. Their currency had strengthened, and their inflation dropped from about 8% to about 4.2%. And, they were kind of getting it together, although unemployment was rising because economic growth had dropped from 11.5% down to about 9.5%, and they're projecting 9% this coming year, although I see Credit Suisse is projecting 7.2%, and I think Credit Suisse is right. And anything under 8% means riots, all kinds of real problems in China. And they've already got them. They already got plenty of demonstrations.
What they've got is Chinese cops raping little girls, being caught on tape. They burn whole cities. You just don't hear about it in our news. The Chinese people, if you want to call it the American spirit, which is arrogant, the human spirit, they are taking on the police and the military and defeating them all across the country. And even with a, quote, good economy, the people are sick of being slaves. The Chinese people in Beijing climb up on lamp poles and pull down surveillance cameras. They will not allow it. And that's what's so shameful is Americans think we're so free. Even in communist China, they want the liberty.
Everybody wants liberty and freedom. And when you have essentially a mercantilist system that's operating in the world today, this is the old British system that Alexander Hamilton wanted to hang on Americans. This is a system which allows open and free trade, and the people who make all the money are the transnational elitist corporations, and then they take that money to extend into control. And that's what we've got today, and it's got to be reversed. In order for Western Europe and America and many other parts of the world to survive, we can't have free trade because there's no level playing field. I mean, every time they have free trade, people start devaluing their currencies.
Well, that's the biggest issue that I always make. Yeah, so they can make the goods cheaper there and undercut you. That the globalists admit in their own handbooks, UN, Club of Rome, that the global warming's all fake. It's a tax to regulate and control our everyday lives. That's why they chose carbon dioxide. It's basically output in all manufacturing, all commerce, transportation, you name it. It's a total control. But, I mean, let's just say it's real. Carbon dioxide's deadly. How is not letting us have basically any output here and taxing it going to empower, the people or stop global warming when it will just make all the industry that hasn't left, that 20%, go to India and China and Mexico and Bangalore? I mean, and all the studies show these policies will boost greenhouse gases because the industry will go to nations that have no controls, and the UN has no intention of making those countries do it. This is asinine.
It just shows you the fallacy of the whole thing. It just shows you what a big lie it is and what a big scam it is. It's just like terrorism. I mean, where is it? It doesn't exist, except in small pockets here and there. The point is, it was the scam to get it going. I would have never dreamed they would have been able to get away with it, but they have. And, of course, the extension of that is this, quote, financial meeting that they're having for the group of 20. And as you said earlier, it'll be stretched over a year or two before they are attempting to get implemented what they want. In the meantime, as we've discussed before in the program, I think there's a good chance that they're going to have another war, a bigger one. And Paul described that last week.
What do you think the big surprise is, the 21st or 22nd? I want to be clear. We're already being blamed for that we're making the prediction. No, we're talking about Biden, we're talking about Powell, talking about Merkel, Barroso, Brown, the Secretary of State, Rice. We're not saying it. They're saying it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, that's just them terrorizing us. But we have to report on them saying this. What is it, Bob?
Well, it could very well be an invasion of another country, which would bait Russia or force Russia into a confrontation with the United States, because Russia's the one that they're after.
All right, we got so much to cover. For everybody on the AM and FM, all our great affiliates, be sure and support the sponsors coming up. For everybody else, I'm going to talk to Bob on the web and at prisonplanet.tv during this break to take some phone calls, because I don't want to waste any time here today and the time we have left. Infowars.com is the website. Turbo in California, you're on the air with Alex Jones and Bob Chapman of the internationalforecaster.com.
Hey, Alex, first let me say that I am a member, a subscriber of Prison Planet TV, and it's wonderful.
Thank you for making the show possible.
Well, sir, now, my original reason for calling up, I've been on hold for like 45 minutes.
I understand.
Okay, it was to ask you a two-part question, but after hearing Mr. Chapman there, I got to tell Mr. Chapman that, here in California, the people in prison that are called criminals, over 60% of them are there for nonviolent drug offenses.
No, but I think his point is that it's a college of crime. They have created a larger, more violent criminal culture. The statistics are 3-4 times, depending on the crime or region, what we had in the 30s. And he's saying people were 90% agrarian instead of 90% urban. I mean, in shorthand, he was just saying that people aren't as well behaved as they were. They're more spoiled. They're not self-sufficient. And because they criminalized drugs and things, it created other corollary crime syndicates or energy centers to be colleges of crime. Bob, do you agree with that statement?
Well, absolutely, I do, and he's right too. My former son-in-law had a master's and was studying PhD in criminology, and I've read the books, and he's absolutely right.
Well, sir, now let me say this. Now, this goes back to why I originally called you, Alex, because I put a lot of stock in your opinions.